Shalom, out here again, representing Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, telling you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that you're the Lord's chosen people, and bringing hope to the hopeless. So, today, we're going to be talking about, let me get my sword on the phone. We're going to be talking about some scriptures, but before I do that, I'm going to face the east and give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakak, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, peace, blessing, mercy, and salutation to all the brothers out there teaching the truth and sincerity in the name of Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai. We're out here again in Hanford, California, and there is a shutdown. I don't know if it's an emergency shutdown, but there's a shutdown, another one in Hanford, so you can't, schools are shutting down. I just had to pick up my son on Friday, and then that was the last day of that school system, and then they're gonna do some man, it's a lot of shit around here. They're gonna do they're gonna give people breaks. So, check that out. The school system is shutting down for a little bit. It's not gonna be back up until the 11th. And then we got rumors of war. Not only that, let's see what we got right here. So we got some news articles saying thousands of Trump supporters rally in D.C. before electoral college vote to protest election. And there was a preliminary 5.0 earthquake strikes near California-Nevada state line. I'm gonna get that one, and I'm gonna read about it a little bit. I never noticed how shitty this fucking. I should have went over there. But anyways, preliminary 5.0 magnitude earthquake struck near California and Nevada state line Friday night, according to the United States Geological Survey. The epicenter was reported 15.6 miles from Mena, Nevada at 11:50 p.m. So that was last night. See, that's Native American woman right there. I should have the sign turned around. And the reason why I'm doing it this way, you can see all the action. Everybody's looking, but nobody's stopping. So we're gonna get out of there. And then about the earthquake, let's see. Let's get some scriptures on earthquake. Because these are the times. We got to talk about what's going on. So got the word earthquakes on the Blue Letter Bible. Let's see. What brings it up? Yep. Matthew 24:7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So that's what's going on right now. And then the similar one is in Mark. So we've been preaching the same gospel this whole time. We've been preaching the same gospel. Because I'm gonna read Mark's version, and I'm gonna read Luke's version. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. So that's going into Jacob's trouble. It's going into Jacob's trouble, and this is going to set up my lesson. So what's the key ingredient in order for you to survive Jacob's trouble. I mean, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. It will be wisdom. So Luke says it a little different. But remember, these are three different individuals, just like there's different brothers in the brotherhood. We all don't speak the same way. We might see things the same way. But when we interpret them, it won't come out the same way. Okay, so this is what, okay. So, this is what Luke says. Luke 21:11, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. So I just wanted to get that in that little article before I start the lesson. It's important. That little article is important because these times are upon us. These times are upon us. So let's see. And I'm in Bell and the Dragon, which is in the Apocrypha. So the first verse is, this is the book of Bell and the Dragon, verse 1. And King Astyages was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom. So the king Astyages was gathered to his fathers. So what does that mean? Does that mean that he had a couple of dads that they were in a homosexual relationship? It means he went to the resting place, to the spirit world. It means that he passed on. You know, that's what it means. So that now, let's move on. And the app that I'm using is called the KJV 1611 with Apocrypha. It's a good app because you can make notes, you can highlight. And I made a video, I think it was a couple of days ago, on Thursday, explaining how I got down on this app. So this lesson is just from the application. You know, I can bring out my this is a 1611. I can bring out my sword and get them from here. I was expecting the brother to, you know, come read for me, but that's all right. You know, we're out here preaching. You know, maybe he couldn't. That's all right. You can. I mean, some circumstances are dire. So let's see. So now this is gonna get interesting. So let's talk about Daniel. What was so important about Daniel? How come Daniel was such sought after prophet? Let's see. Verse 2. And Daniel conversed with the king and was honored above all his friends. Now we're going to look at that now. And I have a couple of scriptures. So we're talking about Daniel. Why is Daniel so honored amongst the kings of Persia? So let's see. Let's start with Daniel 1. No, let's start with Daniel 11 and 1, like I have. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him, because he was a vizier. He was breaking down dreams. He would break down the times. Well, Daniel was getting down. Daniel was getting down, just like we're getting down. You know, all these people see this as a sign of hope. So let's go on to, you know, we're still talking about why Daniel was such an important prophet. Daniel 1 and 4. Children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. So that's a lot of meat. So we got to break some of this stuff down. children in whom was no blemish, Israelites, right? Right? It doesn't mean that they came out with no moles, no teeth pearly white. They got nice froze, no white spots on your skin, completely dark and beautiful, right? And skillful in all wisdom. So now I'm gonna look up the word skillful. And we've been getting words out. Alright, so it says having or showing skill. A skillful infielder. Let's get some. Oh, that's it. But then, what does skill have to do with being a master? Skillful in all wisdom. So that they were skillful in all wisdom, and all the wisdom that they were trained up to be. Right? Because they were captive. They were captives. So now, if they're captives, that means they were in bondage, right? They were slaves. The area where they lived was taken down by aggressors. And cunning in knowledge. Cunning in knowledge. That means they could break the scriptures down. They know how to use their skill. They were very skillful, right? You know, how are you gonna survive in captivity? Every brother that's in Babylon, they got skills. We got skills. You know, if we have employers, our employers see us as skillful resources or skillful servants. So they know that they got something special with us. So they're gonna what? They're gonna keep us employed. They're gonna keep us working. Cunning in knowledge and understanding science. So how do you understand science? Okay. So let me show you. How do you understand science? Alright. So I'm gonna show you. You see that there's a crow on the floor right there. There's a crow. And then over there you see two doves. Do you see those doves in those bushes by the lamppost? Which one of those two creatures, out of those two creatures, which one of those are A, good for you to eat, and B, lawful for you? I'm asking you. That's science. I mean, that bird's obviously dead. There's another fucking dead crow over there. So, what's the healthier animal? The crow or the dove? Now, the dove, they're in pairs. And then those are good to eat. And in September, you don't even need a license. You can just start, killing them. But then again, last week I told you about that plastic bottle. You make a little slingshot out of it, find some pebbles, snap at those doves, make a little fire, you got yourself some good eating. That's part of science. What else could be used in science? Let's say the kingdoms, they have to grow food. They have to grow food. Let's take a look at what Joseph did. Joseph was making a Pharaoh way rich because he understood about the famine. He said, these years you're gonna have good years, you're gonna have bad years. So he was about science. He was about that science. And then growing crops takes a lot of science. You pass by these farms, ranches, or fields with a lot of vegetation. You got tomatoes, you got crops, right? But then you look at the soil, and they're growing it in sand. Sometimes you'll pass by and you see a little sign that says something like Dynagrow or Hydromax. They're companies. They're companies that have to do with soil nutrients. That's right. So then they go and they take the soil sample and they tell the farmers, look, there ain't no nitrogen, there ain't no nothing. You're basically just throwing away your water because the soil's not holding the nutrients that we're feeding. So that's science. Joseph knew all about that, so he was like, okay, you're gonna have good years and you're gonna have bad years. Now, if you go down to, or up from here, it's up. If you go up to Morro Bay or Monterey Bay, there is farms out there too, and there's a place called Casa de Fruta. So once you pass that, you see tons of farms, and guess what? That soil is black, rich with nutrients, nitrates, and oxides, and all that bullshit, beneficial microbes, and all that science, right? So, and then it's important that you have understanding about that, and such as had ability in them to stand. Just so you know, they don't even got shit on that train. It's an empty train. They don't got nothing. Oh wait. And they got those cars waiting too. Oh, so that takes science. Making that a train. Making that train engine go. Sometimes they have steam engines. They have diesel engines. You know, it's all science. So, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. So Joseph was brought up differently. Daniel was brought up differently. They were being able to be trained. So once you're being trained, yeah, that's perfect to understand. Because what happened is the Lord blessed me with a decent employment, and then I was making not that much. Then I took a training that they trained us in, and then I got a little diploma from the University of Connecticut, and then I got a different position. I got a promotion. Then I got I was held in favor of the bosses. So we're in Bellman, right? So we were talking about why is Daniel so important. So and Daniel conversed with the king. And Daniel conversed with the king and was honored above all his friends. See, so he gave lessons, he was giving teaching. So I'm using this application, and you see how it's highlighted and it has notes. Well, I was studying research. And then I put the notes, I put the scripture, the precepts to go with it. So that's pretty tight. That takes science. So now we're going to go into. So first, let me start all over from verse 1. Bel and his dragon. Can you go into the first one? Bel and his dragon. It's in the Apocrypha. So it's not like everybody can be standing in front of the king. If you have a 2/3. take you as a suggestion. And then there's nobles, and then there's advisors. So you can stand in the king's, because like we're kings, right? So who do you want to come up here? Somebody that can understand this, somebody that can understand what we're trying to do for them. So it's important to have that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding.
So this is Baal and the Dragon, chapter 1. And King Astyages was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom.
So he was gathered to his fathers. That means that he died, and he went to the spirit world, and went back with his father. So a new king took over, and then verse 2.
And Daniel conversed with the king and was honored above all his friends.
So he was honored above all his friends, but why? It's because he was held in high esteem, and I got Daniel 11:1. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. So can you get that word confirm? So in confirming, what do you do when you confirm? Do you ever ordered something online and then you have to confirm it? You have to make sure that you did order it. Go ahead.
This definition for confirm: establish the truth or correctness of something previously believed, suspected, or feared to be the case.
Yeah. And that confirm and to strengthen them. So when Daniel confirmed them, he strengthened them. And then Daniel 1:4 showed and the question is, why was Daniel so favored in front of the king? Daniel 1:4 says, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. So it's somebody that can learn. So get verse 3.
Now the Babylonians had an idol called Baal, and there were spent upon him every day 12 great measures of fine flour, and 40 sheep, and 6 vessels of wine.
So that's a lot. But, why were they doing that? Because they were worshiping an idol. Can you get Exodus 20:3? So they were worshiping an idol. And we already know that Daniel was without blemish, so that means without sin. So he wasn't about to even start worshiping them.
Exodus 20:3, thou shalt have no other gods before me.
So this king worshipped Baal, the statue, and when he was worshiping it, he was forsaking the real power, which heathens tend to do that. So now get 20:4, the next one, Exodus 20:4.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above.
So nothing. You can't make any graven image. Let's go to this one. That one's ready.
This is Baal and the Dragon, verse 4. And the king worshipped it and went daily to adore it, but Daniel worshipped his own power.
That's right. So we just read before why Daniel was held in esteem. Because he wasn't down with the wickedness. He wasn't about to worship any false idols. Because he knew that was a breaking of the law. Finish the rest of it.
And the king said unto him, Why dost not thou worship Baal?
So he wants to know, why don't you worship Baal? Can you get Jeremiah 10:2? So this king, he wants to know why isn't this man worshiping his God? After all, he is his servant, right? So why isn't he worshiping? Why isn't he following the rules that I set up for him? What?
Jeremiah 10:2, Thus said Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
So that's exactly why we don't. So thus said Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, learn not the way of the heathen. So no matter where you're at, especially if you're in captivity, you got to worship your own power. So if you're still in Jeremiah, go to the 3rd verse. And this is why we stay with our own power. That's why we left Egypt.
For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe.
So the works of the hands of a heathen, no less, making this statue, you're not supposed to be worshiping that. This is back to Baal. You're not supposed to be worshiping that. So, in the precepts we're getting, go with the scriptures that we're getting. So when you're making a lesson, it's not that hard. It should be easy. And then after that, it should be in your head. That's how I'm gonna do it, and that's how I'm gonna keep doing it. And then you'll make little changes. So let's go to verse 5.
Baal and the dragon, chapter 1, verse 5. Who answered and said, Because I may not worship idols made with hands, but the living power, who hath created the heaven and the earth, and hath sovereignty over all flesh.
Sovereignty over all flesh. So that's what he said. So now I got some more precepts. You get Genesis 1, and I'm gonna read that one too. So Daniel answered him, Baal and Dragon 1 and 5, who answered and said, Because I may not worship idols made with hands, but the living power, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, who hath created the heaven and the earth, and has sovereignty over all flesh. So now I got some scriptures. This is John 1 and 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with power, and the Word was power. Go ahead, get Genesis 1 and 1.
Genesis 1 and 1. In the beginning, the Most High created the heaven and the earth.
In the beginning, the Most High created the heaven and the earth. So that's telling you why, Daniel's breaking it down. He's breaking down the scriptures. He's thinking about the scriptures when he's being a servant to this other king. So he's working for the king. John 1 and 2. The same was in the beginning with power, Alachayim, which breaks down. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. So Yahushua made everything according to his Father's plan. Go ahead, get Genesis 1 and 2.
Genesis 1 and 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of the Most High moved upon the face of the waters.
So there you go. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Alachayim, moved upon the face of the waters. So there you go, man. They were moving upon all over this space, atmosphere, when they decided to make it. So let's go back to Baal. And verse 6.
Baal and the dragon, chapter 1, verse 6. Then said the king unto him, Thinkest thou not that Baal is a living power? Seest thou not how much he eateth and drinketh every day?
So that king is a simple king. The king of Persia is a simple king. Thinkest thou not that Baal is a living power? Well, no, because you're going to prove it right now. First, I'll get it later, but go on to the next one. Verse 7.
Then Daniel smiled and said, O king, be not deceived, for this is but clay within and brass without, and did never eat or drink anything.
So Daniel just told him, look, this is the work of people. Let's get to verse 8.
So the king was wroth and called for his priests and said unto them, If ye tell me not who this is that devoureth these expenses, ye shall die.
Okay, so there's people telling the king, look, man, this is your God. Because what they knew that there is no God for them. So this is Matthew 6 and 7. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. So this king thought that that statue was going to listen to him. Read that one again.
So the king was wroth and called for his priests and said unto them, If ye tell me not who this is that devoureth these expenses, ye shall die.
So he's like, all right. So why did the king believe Daniel? Because he knew Daniel was smart. Daniel was pragmatic. He worked it. He worked it out. Verse 9.
But if ye can certify me that Baal devoureth them, then Daniel shall die.
So there's a bet now. Let's see. Let me read that again. But if you can certify me that Baal devours them, then Daniel shall die. So there's a bet. It's like, look, if you can prove it, Daniel's gonna die. So what's the other part of the bet? Finish it.
For he hath spoken blasphemy against Baal. And Daniel said unto the king, Let it be according to thy word.
So he already knew, look at this thing doesn't have no power. So this not the king has power, but the dragon that they made, the statue doesn't have any power. Verse 10.
Now the priests of Baal were 70, besides their wives and children. And the king went with Daniel into the temple of Baal.
So he went in there and said, we're going to prove this. We're going to prove this. So it's getting serious now. Verse 10. Oh, I mean 11.